Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Glenn's Vinyl Records. Just to let you know, I normally record these videos on a Saturday morning, then they get edited and we upload them Saturday afternoon. Because I have a full-time job and work Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, the weekend is the only time I get to prepare and work on these videos. After last week's video, I decided that this week's was going to be about Black Sabbath, my favourite band of all time. And because of the Back to the Beginning event, farewell event that they did in Birmingham at Villa Park on July 5. And I was going to just showcase the albums from Black Sabbath that I have in my collection on vinyl. But then on Tuesday was the sad passing of Ozzy Osbourne, 17 days after the Back to the Beginning show. So I've changed it around a bit, and today I want to do a video showing the Black Sabbath albums that I have on vinyl, as well as Ozzy's albums as well. Just a bit of background. Black Sabbath, 4 guys: Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, Bill Ward on drums, and of course Ozzy on vocals. They all grew up in Birmingham, in about a 3-mile radius from each other, so they all lived very close. And in the early days, around 1968, they were in different bands. Tony and Bill were in a band called Mythology, and Geezer was looking for a vocalist to start a band of his, and he put an ad in a newspaper for a vocalist. And one day someone knocked at his door and his brother answered, and then came to Geezer and said, "You better go to the front door, there's something there to see you." And Geezer said, "What do you mean something?" And his brother said, "You better go take a look." And he went to the front door, and there was Ozzy with a skinhead haircut. He had a long brown coat on, chimney brush over his shoulder, no shoes, just bare feet, and he had a sneaker on a dog leash. And he said to Geezer, "Hi, I'm Ozzy." And that's basically how they met and got together and formed the band that they called Rare Breed. So one day Bill and Tony saw an ad, Ozzy Zig requires gig, and they got in touch with Ozzy. Tony thought he knew that it was Ozzy because he knew of someone in school that he'd gone to school with called Ozzy, and when they all met up, it was confirmed. So they formed up in 1968 and originally started as the Polka Tulk Blues Band, and for good reason probably changed their name to Earth and started playing around as Earth. There was another English band called Earth at the time, and Sabbath found themselves getting booked as Earth, the other band, and turning up and realising that they'd been booked as the wrong band. So they needed to change their name. At the time they were rehearsing in a building opposite a movie theatre, an old movie theatre that used to show horror movies. And one day, I think it was Geezer who said to the others, "Isn't it strange that people pay money to watch scary movies?" So he started to write a song inspired by the movie that was playing in this movie theatre. The movie was Black Sabbath, starred Boris Karloff. So Geezer wrote the song, and in late 1969 they went into the recording studio to record their first album. And it's at that time they changed their name from Earth to Black Sabbath, the same name as the song. So I want to go through and show you the albums that I have. The original first album, self-titled, Black Sabbath, and this was released on Friday the 13th in February 1970, and it took one day basically to record. They had one day for recording and one day for mixing, so they just went into the studio and played live. And this is the actual Rhino Hi-Fi reissue that just came out. I replaced my original, which got damaged after years of playing, so it's good to have this new Rhino Hi-Fi copy. I got the There was a numbered and unnumbered version, and I got the numbered one, limited to 5,000. So on this one, they had the title track, Black Sabbath, The Wizard, Behind the Wall of Sleep, N.I.B., Wicked World, A Bit of Finger / Sleeping Village, and Warning. And that was the first one they put out, self-titled Black Sabbath. The next one, which came out in 18th of September 1970, is Paranoid. And this is probably their most successful album of the original albums. Contains the tracks War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Fairies Wear Boots, The Great Planet Caravan, which is a slow, spacey type of song, but it's great, and Rat Salad as well. But yeah, that's a really great one. Nice photo on the inside there. So that was their second one in 1970, Paranoid. Their third album, released on the 6th of August 1971, is Master of Reality. And I lent my original copy out to someone and never got it back. This is a recent reissue, sounds great, and it's got the track Sweet Leaf on it and Children of the Grave, Into the Void, After Forever, great tracks, fantastic album. So that was the third one. Then came the one I've got on my shirt, Black Sabbath Volume 4, and this was recorded in America, their fourth album, and released in September of 1972. And nice shots of Tony and Geezer on the inside there. And it has Wheels of Confusion, Tomorrow's Dream, Changes, which I'll talk about later. FX and Supernaut round out side 1. Side 2 is Snowblind, Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, St. Vitus Dance, and Under the Sun. Black Sabbath Volume 4. Their fifth album, released October 26, 1973, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And it's got a fantastic cover. Don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's great. And on here they have the title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, National Acrobat, Fluff, Sabracadabra, which I think actually had Rick Wakeman from Yes playing keyboards on that track, but it's not credited on the back. Killing Yourself to Live, Who Are You, Looking for Today, and Spiral Architect. So that's their fifth one, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Their sixth album came out in July 28th, 1975, Sabotage, and kind of a weird cover photo. I don't know what's going on with Bill Ward there with the red leggings, very strange. But another great one, Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, Megalomania, Am I Going Insane, The Thrill of It All, yeah, Sabotage. That was their sixth. Okay, their seventh record came out on the 22nd of October 1976, and it's this one, Technical Ecstasy, which isn't as hard rock or metal as the previous albums. It's more of a upbeat, poppy kind of album. Tracks on it, Backstreet Kids, You Won't Change Me, Bill Ward's first vocal, It's Alright, so he does vocals on that. All Moving Parts Stand Still, Rock and Roll Doctor, She's Gone, and probably the best track on there is Dirty Women, which they played in concert right up until the end. So that's the seventh. Their eighth and last album with the original lineup, Never Say Die, which was released on 29th of September in 1978. And by this time, all of the members had pretty much alcohol and drug habits. They were running out of control, and Ozzy was probably the worst of the lot. So they made a decision to fire him from the group, and it was left to Bill Ward to deliver the news to him. And Bill took it quite hard, and his drinking increased after that quite a lot. And yeah, it's a good album, but it has some great tracks on it. The title track, Never Say Die. There's Johnny Blade and Junior's Eyes. They're not bad, but not one of their greatest. Yeah, the eighth and the last album by the original lineup. Now I want to show some compilations, kind of, well, they are. This one here, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, came out in January 1976, and it's a double album with all of their big hits on it. And strange picture on the inside of the gatefold there. But yeah, it's got all the big ones: Black Sabbath, Iron Man, War Pigs, Paranoid, yeah, all of the big ones from the early albums. We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. In Australia they also released this one, Greatest Hits, in 1977. And this cover painting is actually by a painter, Peter Bruegel, and it was done in 1562, titled The Triumph of Death, and depicts quite an apocalyptic scene with skeletons coming to life and causing havoc, and fires burning in a wasteland, and yeah, very unusual cover, but there's a lot of detail in it, and yeah, great work by this artist back in 1562, a long time ago. But it contains 10 tracks: Paranoid, NIB, Changes, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Iron Man, Black Sabbath, War Pigs, Laguna Sunrise, Tomorrow's Dream and Sweet Leaf. So, Greatest Hits, released in Australia in 1977. Then in 1980 we got another one, The Best, which is another compilation album with all the big hits on it. Then also in 1980 this live album came out, Live at Last, and this was released without the knowledge or permission of the band by their former manager Patrick Meehan, who had the rights to this recording. And eventually it came out in 2002 as disc one of a double album that was called Past Lives. But this is the version that came out in 1980, Live at Last. Then I've just got 3 bootlegs that I want to show, not official releases. The first one is Paranoid Tour, 1970. And this was recorded at the Olympia Theatre in Paris on the 20th of December in 1970. So that's one there. Another one is this one, California Jam, recorded at the Ontario Speedway in 1974. There's a lot of videos or video footage of this on YouTube. They played in front of a massive crowd, hundreds of thousands of people. And yeah, this is the album with that music, California Jam. And the last of the bootlegs that I want to show is this one, Masters of the Grave. And this is another live broadcast from Asbury Park in New Jersey on the 5th of August 1975. And it's got the track list there, if you can see that. And that's on purple vinyl. Okay, so that's the bootlegs out of the way. Now we go to the first album, which they recorded after Ozzy was fired. They got in Ronnie James Dio, who had been playing with Rainbow, singing in Rainbow, and also the band Elf before that. And they recorded this album, Heaven and Hell. This is my original. I've also got a double album that Rhino did as a reissue. It's got the original album and a separate disc of live performances from the Heaven and Hell tour in 1980. And that was the first one without Ozzy, but it was very successful for them. Bill Ward had been drinking heavily, and in interviews he actually says he doesn't remember recording the drums or playing the drums on that album. He was basically numb at the time. And during that tour, the 1980 Heaven and Hell tour, early in it, he up and left, just walked out. He had basically had enough. So they had to get in another drummer, and they got in Vinny Appice. He finished the tour, the Heaven and Hell tour, and recorded the next album with them, Mob Rules. So it's Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ronnie Dio and Vinny Appice on drums. And that was another great album, very successful for them. And yeah, Mob Rules, fantastic record. They then decided to put out a live album, and that actually became the end of that group. The album was called Live Evil, double live album, and during the mixing of it, there were rumours that Ronnie and Vinny were going in and changing the mix and turning up the drums and the vocals, and Tony and Geezer weren't happy about it, so the band basically split in half, and Ronnie and Vinny went off and formed Dio, and Black Sabbath had to continue with Tony and Geezer, and they had to look for other members. They actually enticed Bill Ward to come back for the next album, Born Again. This one was released on the 9th of September 1983, and yeah, it's Tony, Geezer, Bill Ward back on drums, only for a short period though. He would leave again. And it's got Ian Gillan doing the vocals of XD Purple. This became kind of a cult album, and wasn't really that well engineered and mixed, and there's talk of a new reissue coming out of this, which would be great because the tapes have been found. They went missing for quite a while, and now they've been found, and I think Tony's going to get a new reissue done of this, which yeah, would be great. Okay, I won't go too much further into the Black Sabbath albums, because after that, the next one I think was Seventh Star, which is basically almost the Tony Iommi solo album. And then they brought in Tony Martin to do vocals, and did 2 albums with him, The Eternal Idol and Headless Cross and Tyre. Then Ronnie Dio came back again and did Dehumanizer with them, and then that split up again, and then Tony Martin came back and they did Cross Purposes and Forbidden. And I've got all those albums on CD, but I just want to stick to showing the vinyl records today. So we'll move on to Ozzy now. And after being sacked from Sabbath, he had to get his act together and try and form a new band. And the guys he put together were quite incredible. He had Bob Daisley was the first one on bass to come along, and they were auditioning guitar players, many guitar players, and they eventually found this young Californian guy, Randy Rhoads, unknown. He was in a band, Quiet Riot, at the time, but they were virtually unknown. I think they put out 1 album. But yeah, Randy joined Ozzy along with Bob, and Lee Kerslake from Uriah Heep completed the lineup of the first band, and it was Blizzard of Oz. It's supposed to be the name of the band and the album, but ended up becoming an Ozzy Osbourne album called Blizzard of Oz. And all of the songs were written by Bob Daisley. The vocals were written by Bob Daisley, but Ozzy did all the melodies himself. So that's basically writing half of the song if you're doing the melodies and singing. But yeah, the vocals were done by Bob Daisley, the actual writing of the lyrics. Not long after that, that was on September 80 in the UK, Blizzard of Oz came out, and it was March 81 in the US. Then October 81, this came out, Diary of a Madman, their second album, and it's basically the same lineup, It's got Lee Kerslake on drums, Bob on bass, Randy on guitar, and Ozzy, of course, on vocals. Again, all the lyrics written by Bob Daisley, and yeah, great tracks on here. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, Believer. Yeah, the title track, Diary of a Madman, is fantastic. It's got a lot of strings on it. Orchestration, it's fantastic. So that was the second one Ozzy did. The third one is Bark at the Moon. And by this time, Randy Rhoads had unfortunately passed in a tragic accident while they were on tour. He'd been up in a light plane where the bus driver had stopped at an airstrip, and he basically took a plane because he said to them, I've got a aeroplane license, pilot's license, and he took members of the band and crew up for a flight. Randy was on the second flight, I think, and also Ozzy's costume lady, she was on the flight with him, and the driver tried to buzz the tour bus a couple of times and eventually clipped it, and the plane spun out of control and burst into flames, crashing into a house. And yeah, unfortunately Randy was killed. So they had to find a new guitar player. Jakey Lee came along. Bob Daisley was still on bass on this album, Bark at the Moon, which came out on the 14th of November 83. And yeah, Tommy Aldridge is playing drums on this, replacing Lee Kerslake, and Don Airey is on keyboards. But yeah, Jakey Lee had big shoes to fill after Randy's death, so he did very well on this album. It's a great album by Ozzy, Bark at the Moon. Fourth album, Ultimate Sin. And this one has Jakey Lee again on guitar. Philip Susan does bass, and Randy Costello is the drummer on this. And another great one by Ozzy, Shot in the Dark, The Ultimate Sin, Lightning Strikes, Killer of Giants, a lot of great tracks on this one. So that was the fourth one they did. Now a couple of live albums that Ozzy did. This one here, Speak of the Devil, released 22nd of November 1982. And in the UK, I think the album title, it was Talk of the Devil, because they say it differently there. So in Australia and the US, I think it was Speak of the Devil, but in UK it was Talk of the Devil. And this one was recorded live not long after Randy's death. So on guitar we have Brad Gillis, who was not in the band very long because he went off after this and formed, I think, Night Ranger, his band. Rudy Sarzo is on bass, Tommy Aldridge on the drums, and Ozzy on vocals, of course. But they're not doing any of his solo stuff on this. It's all Black Sabbath tracks. So we have War Pigs, Fairies Wear Boots, The Wizard, Black Sabbath, Snowblind, Symptom of the Universe, N.I.B., Sweetleaf, Never Say Die, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, and Paranoid. And that's a double live album. It's the inside of the gatefold there. Another great live album that came out, the tribute album to Randy Rhoads. And this came out on the 16th of April 87. It's got a fantastic picture of Randy on the back there with his cream Les Paul. And some great shots on the inside of the band. And this is a mixture of Ozzy solo stuff and a few of the Black Sabbath songs. So you get, I don't know, probably the best version of Crazy Train I've ever heard on this tribute album. Believer, Mr. Crowley, Flying High Again, Steal Away, Suicide Solution. Then we get 3 tracks from the Sabbath days, Iron Man, Children of the Grave, Paranoid, Goodbye to Romance, No Bone Movies, and D. Some studio outtakes of Randy Rhoads on guitar. But yeah, highly recommended live album. the tribute album to Randy Rhoads. After that, there were another 9 albums recorded by Ozzy, solo albums, and I have them all on CD, but I don't want to go too long on this video, so just to recap quickly. In 1988 he done No Rest for the Wicked. In 91 No More Tears, which had I Don't Want to Change the World and Mama I'm Coming Home on it, which were co-written by Lemmy from Motorhead, and probably the 2 biggest, most successful tracks that Lemmy had ever wrote, he did with Ozzy. In 95, Osmosis. Then in 2001 we had Down to Earth. 2005 was Undercover. Black Rain came out in 2007. Scream in 2010. Ordinary Man was released in 2020. And Patient Number 9 in 2022, which was the last solo album by Ozzy, and actually won a Grammy for Best Rock Album that year. So now I just want to talk briefly about the Back to the Beginning event that happened on July 5. It was billed as being Black Sabbath's final ever show with the original members, Tony, Bill, Geezer and Ozzy, and it was an event that probably will become legendary because it went for 10 hours, and it was put together by musical director Tom Morello, and Jason Momoa was the host, and it contained performances by a lot of the great metal bands of the past. Just to go over some of the bands that performed: Mastodon, Anthrax, Lamb of God, Alice in Chains, Pantera, Tool, Slayer. There were 2 what was called supergroups, Supergroup A and B, which featured Tom Morello, and some of the guys that were in it with him were Nuno Bettencourt, Mike Borden, Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. Jakey Lee came out, done a couple of songs. Sammy Hagar did a great version of Rock Candy. KK Downing from Judas Priest was in the supergroup as well. And Steven Tyler of Aerosmith did 3 songs, and he sounded back to his best. Amazing vocal performances by Steven Tyler. Then we had, towards the end, the big guns came out, literally. Guns N' Roses, and then followed by Metallica. And after that, Sabbath came out. No, actually Ozzy came out first, and he did 5 tracks from his solo career. I Don't Know, Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, Mama I'm Coming Home, which was very emotional, and Crazy Train. And then the rest of Sabbath came out with him and finished off 4 tracks: War Pigs, NIB, Iron Man and Paranoid. And that was the end of it. The highlight for me was during one of the supergroups, they did a track from Volume 4 called Changes, and it was sung by a guy called Dominic Harrison, he goes by the name of Youngblood. I'd never heard of him, and I think most of the crowd at Villa Park maybe had never heard of him either. And he delivered a vocal performance on Changes that was absolutely incredible. You have to go online and watch it on YouTube. Just search Youngblood Changes, and you'll see how good this guy is. Absolutely fantastic. Then 17 days after that event, we had the tragic news that Ozzy had passed on July 22, Tuesday of this week. And yeah, very sad. And I've shed a tear or 2 in the last few days just thinking about it, because this music has played such a large part in my life. I bought my first Sabbath album in 1976, the second album, Paranoid, and I've been listening to them for 49 years. So that's my video for this week, just going over all the Black Sabbath albums that I have on vinyl, as well as Ozzy's. Rest in peace, Ozzy. And I'd just like to show one more thing. Okay, in 2009, I discovered that you could order Tony Iommi's Old Boy SG from a company called JD Custom Guitars, it was founded in 1977 by John Diggins, who made Tony's guitars for him in the 70s and made his original Old Boy SG. the one with all the paint peeled off it and battered and bruised, and the one that he uses has become an iconic part of his look on stage. So in 2009 I asked John Diggins of JD Guitars if he would build me one. So he did, and mine is stamped OB004, Old Boy number 4, and this is it. You can see there. It has the original Shaler 456 bridge with the fine-tuning adjustment knobs at the back, which is now discontinued. So if you order one of these now, it just comes with the standard Gibson bridge and tailpiece. But yeah, all the pickups, everything on it is exactly as Tony's guitar, Tony's Old Boy. Even the polished aluminium crucifixes on the ebony fretboard. Body and neck are solid mahogany, and yeah, when you plug it in, it sounds like Sabbath. It's a fantastic guitar. And unfortunately, last year, January 2nd, 2024, John Diggins actually passed away as well. The company's still running these days. His sons Michael and Andrew and his grandson Toby are still running it, keeping it alive, making great instruments. So that's it for my video today. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and watching. Please subscribe, it really helps me produce these videos, and I've got more planned for the future. And if you like this one, give it a like as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.